Good evening, November Foxtrot. Hello.
Oh,
It's a chaotic week. So
that's fucking
I know
chaos.
everyone's bored of this, but this is the last podcast I will be doing from this location, this house. And annoyingly, one of the best setups I've had in a while. I managed to play around with the lights a little bit before the show, and I've got the perfect front lighting. I've got some nice back lighting. It's not
Yeah,
actually looking too shabby.
like the fan.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. This was my bedroom. Now this is just moving room B.
You should do a progressive show reel as we work our way, because obviously the whole community wants to see your new dwelling,
Oh yes.
um,
Yeah.
the Fraser Hyde, and you should do a
Yeah.
show from each room each week, so we get a grand tour through
Yeah.
the
I
show,
mean, for the first
through
few
the
weeks,
house.
it's just going to be like that between boxes, just going, oh, hello, I'm in this room.
Can you guess what room I'm in?
Just hear the flush of the toilet in the background. How are you? I've noticed that there is some pen on your arm.
They have, yes. I went a bit crazy today with the Sharpie. There it is, coming along nicely. I was surprised that he managed to get all that done in the first sitting. To be fair, I booked a half day. I'm glad I didn't do a full day because it was really hurting by the end of 5 hours. I was just like, yeah, this is starting to smart a bit now. Yeah. Can I please leave? But yeah, no, I'm really happy with it so far. So one more session and that'd be the arm. Then it's just the chest.
I'm pretty certain in Ghost Recon Breakpoint that you can get a character with that on their arm, which I know there's already a few likenesses of you from Ghost Recon Breakpoint anyway, because you are the face of November Foxtrot after all.
Oh,
so,
bless you.
People love taking a picture with you.
That is never going to go away, is it?
Absolutely not. I've just renewed lance.com, by the way.
Have you really?
Yeah. I'm still personally paying for this.
Hello, everybody else, anyway.
Yeah, hello all. Yeah, so apologies for being a little bit late. We are, to say struggling a little bit is probably quite an understatement. But hello, Ladnav Challenge, Marky Mark, Oscar Hyatt, Steve, Les. Hello, Les. Hope that you had a good day. Kenny, Danny. Hi, Danny. Yeah, so tonight we're going to be chatting about cold front tactics, preparing for winter airsoft Milsims.
Cold front, blimey.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that.
I've got ChatGPT to write our show titles as well now. So then it's not only just writing the spiel that goes underneath each episode. So we come up with the idea for the episode, and then I'll just get that to just generate something. It makes it a lot cooler.
Leave it to the computers.
Yeah. Thanks, robots.
Thank you, robots. Love you. Big time.
Hi, Jigglypuff Gus. Hello.
Evening.
So I wanted to start with, we actually had a question, Lance, come in via our website. So if you want to get in touch with us via the website, this is evidence that this works. So it's a gentleman who, NoFo AI. There's a gentleman who is going to be attending Defiant's Machiavellian. And they said that they, on one of our podcasts, we attended Machiavellian events. Do you have a more comprehensive after-action report? I'm looking to book to Delta, but there isn't much info out there on the interwebs. So I very kindly pointed him towards our episode where we did a debrief, which was episode 118. And this is my kind of audience member. Cheers. I had seen the episode. I was hoping for a little more than we got stuck in a bush and someone pissed over the top of us while we slept. Have you guys been to subsequent events?
How do you know?
November. Did the intel gathering phase form the basis of a subsequent phase, and also what's your podcast schedule? I could have watched you live. So basically, I said that we would be talking about it from the perspective of it was a cold weather event. Ties in quite nicely with what we're talking tonight. So we're going to be going at tonight's show on the basis of a hardcore event. I don't want to call it hard routine, but look, it's probably one of the more hardcore style of events.
I'll go with that.
So that's the rationale behind that. So thank you for your questions that came in. So where should we start then, Lance?
Well, I'd actually like to give a quick shout out, if I may, because
I forgot. Of course.
I don't know if you can get the picture up from our from our main chat.
Oh man, I'm not even working off the computer. I'm
Doesn't
on a
matter.
laptop tonight.
It doesn't matter.
I will see what I can do. Hang on, I'll find it. Well, you start talking, I'll find it.
So I did have a little segment a while ago of things that I've noticed in the airsoft community of the week, which sort of caught my eye. And this was actually a physical, tangible thing that caught my eye because basically my son turned 11 yesterday. So over the weekend he had a little paintballing, low impact paintball party down at Driverwood. I know, yeah, we've all done it. We've all got to do it.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. You know, it was from 10 going on to 11, and initially they were going out with the main paintball group, and there was a group of guys probably in their 20s there, and you've got my son who's 10, and then you've got like guys in their mid-20s bragging about how much paint and grenades they've bought, and my son and his little chums were like, we really don't want to do this now, that they've really scared us because of what they were talking about. So I must give a shout out to Gareth, who's the owner of Driverwood and his Marshall team. Gareth actually took time out to actually put on a private 4 versus 4 for my son and his 8 friends, basically.
Oh, that's cool.
To go 4-on-4 in a little private fenced off area of the site, just them 8, just the 8 youngsters, and he'd done that for the entire day of them. We done 4 or 5 games, and they had their food afterwards, so they really enjoyed it because they did want to just not do it. But he sort of come back and said, look, you know, no, I'm not going to charge you or anything like that. He said, but I'll come out and I'll create, you know, some little 15-minute games for so that all 8 can take part. So huge shout out to Gareth at Driverwood. Thanks for that, mate. Really appreciate it. Top man. Yeah, it's a great site, great facilities, blah, blah, blah. Go and have a look at it if you've not all done already. But whilst I was there, I met a guy called Sam, who's obviously got problems with his legs, so he can't get around like the rest of us can. Normal run-of-the-mill wheelchair, I'm guessing. I didn't really ask too much about that. It was the front end that caught my eye because I think that is fucking awesome. So yeah, he's a full-time airsofter, goes skirmishing every weekend, off-road tyres on the wheelchair at the back, and he brought this front end which bolts onto the wheelchair from China or Japan, wherever it's from. Huge battery pack on it, runs a PKM off the front, runs a DMR, runs an M4, still gets in amongst it, and I just thought that was a really wicked example of someone going above and beyond to make sure they can take part in the sport still, even after he might have had. I did ask him how, you know, his issues with his legs happened, whether it's from birth or whether he had an accident, but regardless, the fact that he's still smashing it in airsoft and getting out amongst it is commendable. And his mode of transport looked fucking awesome, almost German World War II motorbike-esque vibes from the front end, which is what caught my eye. I had a very Indiana Jones Last Crusade moment when I saw it. I was just like, oh, I wanted to run it.
Yeah, you need some pannier bags or something on the side.
Pannier bags on the back. I wanted to snap a flagpole and just charge at him from across the safe zone. But yeah, just wanted to give Sam a huge shout out. He was a really nice guy. I did go up to him and ask him if I could take photographs for the show. I didn't just go up there and just start fucking snapping away. What the fuck are you doing? Get away from me. Yeah. But yeah, just a massive shout out to Sam. And yeah, just an awesome guy with an awesome kit, and I want to have a go on that. I wonder if I actually shot him out in the field, whether I could take him out of there and just say, well, you're dead, man, now, so you can't speak, and just have a little go and give it back.
It would be... That's just hijack someone's wheelchair.
That's not a wheelchair. That is a transport of doom.
Yeah, I was just thinking though, right? If there's an airsoft site out there that's thinking, you know, we need something that's an edge. You know, I mean, I would love to play an event on one of those. That looks cool. It's like,
mate,
it looks.
That's a game changer.
Yeah.
Could you imagine how untired you'd be?
I know, right?
Although,
especially, can you imagine running, go around one of those in Longmore? That'd be amazing.
I'd quite enjoy it for like a Machiavellian event, like a recce vehicle, just like loads of gorse bush off the front of it, and just slowly every now and again, when the enemies turn their back, just move forward a bit. Like, was it Grandma's Footsteps or something? Or
yeah.
And when they turn around, just if the bush is in a different position, sort of thing. That'd be quality.
Do you reckon you could attach a sidecar to that? Because I'm wondering if we could
100%
create something, and then you could have a sidecar on either side. So me and Andy are sitting there either side, and then you could be driving along. That'd be amazing.
Or if you go, like, you know, when you go on the farm day trips and they've got the quad bike that's got like the half barrels cut down.
Oh yeah.
We could have like a centipede behind it. We could do that. It's getting silly now.
That was cool. I like it.
But yeah, no, big shout out to Sam. Yeah. Many more happy years of airsoft in your turbo vehicle.
Yeah.
Good on you, sir.
Ryan says it reminds me of the vehicle from Saving Private Ryan, where he used the BAR to get the tank's attention.
Yes, give it a rabbit to chase, as Tom Hanks said in the movie. Yes, absolutely. I wonder if you could get like a 3D printed sort of track panel on the side to make it look like it's on tracks, or whether you could just get fucking tracks.
Well, you probably could just get tracks. I mean, there is that.
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to sound. I don't remember the guy's name, but there is the guy with the Airsoft like tracked.
Oh, the mini
wheelchair.
tank thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
cool.
Yeah, but that's not also horrible at the same time because it's got a minigun on the front of it. Which I
wouldn't want to go up against these things.
No. No, absolutely not.
So, cool. I like it.
It's very cool. Very cool. Yeah, fair play to him.
Nice.
Good stuff.
So, cold front. It's getting cold. It is
genuinely is getting cold.
Yeah.
I was at work last night. It's genuinely fucking nippy. I was like,
yeah, I had the heating on in the car this morning. I was like, oh, this is pretty bad.
We are so fucking old. It's unbelievable.
Oh,
do you know I put the heating on in the car
seats
this morning? Did you know that?
Yeah,
that's the sort of text I'd get from my dad. I had to put the heating on in the car today. Did you now? Right. From the man who refuses to buy car air fresheners and just use tangerine peel to freshen the smell of the car up. But it works. It does.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a huge tangent from the point of conversation. My wife decided, my wife had there was an accident in the car involving my child. Not a car accident, just
she
had an accident in the car. Yeah. Drunk driving. No,
what a bastard.
She was. No, my daughter was in the car. She had an accident, and we used vinegar to clean it. Not just pure vinegar, but it was a strong enough smell of vinegar that it's pretty bad in there now. So there's certain odors. You might as well just open a tin of tuna and just rub that around the room. Like it's like,
oh dear. Does it need a full internal valet?
I think we need a new car. To be honest.
Or just remove the seats.
Yeah. Anywho, right, cold weather stuff. So let's talk about. We'll go on the kind of the usual route in terms of shelter, sleep systems, and then loadouts, and then any ancillary bits and pieces that we think. So like personal gear. But we're going at it from a hardcore style event. So
we're going at it from a Machiavellian alpha.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'll be honest with you. I don't know quite what the setup is for Machiavellian Delta. For those that don't know, so Defiant Events, great company. They do a series of events called Machiavellian, which I always struggle to say. The style of event is basically probably more of a kind of a NATO-esque kind of JTF multicam-ish force that then is up against a more stylized Op4. So it's not quite so much as you rock up as Op4 and then you're kind of undertaking taskings per se. So from my understanding, it's more storyline driven. Yeah. So there's kind of set pieces that they set up that you're basically sort of providing a background for the JTF or NATO element to kind of do their bit almost. So it's not that you're not a player, because you're obviously still doing bits and pieces. There's firefights and things like that, but it's not quite so. It's not quite so individually led. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's that kind of style of event, and it is you're in you've got a Bergen. So do you want to? I tell you what, the way to do this. Let's explain Machiavellian and Alpha and our experience of that. We'll do a kind of a recap debrief of that. You obviously spent an awful lot of time cutting the hole in the bush, Lance, so I'll let you lead with that.
Yeah, that's serious. So, infield Friday evening, 9 p.m-ish, I'm going to say, by the time everyone had arrived, and we got sort of a prior briefing off at the safe zone-ish, if you like, safe zone. And then patrolled it on foot. Were guided in by one of the other recce team leaders to a setting off point, pushed out from there up to our first LUP, should we say, which wasn't an LUP when we arrived. So we arrived at this location in the dead of night, had to cut out a gorse bush, bramble bush, briar patch, whatever you want to call it, and we essentially hollowed out this massive bramble bush enough to take 4 guys and their kit and be essentially invisible to the enemy as best as possible. So it was hollowing it out, keeping a big clump of it to close the hole off afterwards once we were in there, enough to stow kit away, lay down-ish as much as possible for a sleeping arrangement, this, that, and the other. So that took a couple of 3 hours at least, I'd say, to get that all squared away and get tucked in. Very cold, very prickly. Spent probably 3.5 hours on our belt buckles, just pruning, clipping back, dragging it back to one person, then pulling it back, and then someone else dispersing the bits that we cut to keep it out of sight, out of mind. But we got there, we done it. It was comfortable enough, and we actually dog-legged the entrance. So as you went into the hide, you turned immediately right, and then you came round. So if someone did sort of look through, they wouldn't just look into you, and all 4 of us would be like, "Hi." You'd actually have a bit of a barrier before you came into a bit of like a badger set sort of type thing. We were 4 little badgers just snuggled up. So that was that. That was essential. Our setup for the next 24, 36 hours. Once we're in there, sort of minimal kit admin had to take place. Started stagging on straight away, or just at the very least a listening post, because obviously it was the dead of night, so there was minimal movements. We were close enough to the enemy to hear them come in and getting some bits of chat coming across to us, which was good. And then was it you and Mark that pushed out, or was it me and Mark that pushed out to do the? Oh yeah, because I think you got the comms up with Zero.
Yeah.
And I think it was me and Mark who was our main team leader for our 4-man recce unit. It should have been 5, but Andy just pussied out and decided to turn up at the end of the event. So it was just the 4 of us. So me and Mark pushed out from our LUP, and we tried to find an OP to actually get physical eyes on the enemy position, or the position we were tasked to observe for the weekend. Ended up finding a huge pile of tyres, which has always been there. It's been there for years. It's been hiding in plain sight almost. That's the sort of a route we took, because we was thinking of other bushes we could cut into and lay up. And in the end, it was sort of like it's starting to get a little bit light now. We've really got to find a suitable location where we can look at the main MSR, get a good eyes on at least 3 sides of this building and all the goings and goings on out the front of it. So this tyre pile sort of came into its own. We managed to sort of jimmy a little tunnel into it by stacking up some tyres behind it and spreading them out and keeping it looking as it looked when we got there. And it has enough room for someone to crawl into and have a perfect field of view, but be far enough in the tyre still to stay in the shadows. So if anyone was to look in there, they wouldn't just see like, or your rifle butt or your scope or a lens off of binoculars or a spotting scope or anything like that. So yeah. You could have some scrim net over you as well, just to darken it down still inside the tyres. So that worked really well. So that was our hide for the weekend, and I had people 2 or 3 foot away from me walking, just stopping, having a chat. No idea that we were there, which was really good. We did get apparent soft compromise right towards the end of the event, which I'm still on the fence about.
I still find the phrase soft compromise a funny term.
Yeah, it's very. It's a bit dirty. I don't like soft compromise. No, yes, it's almost as bad as heavy petting to me. That is. Yeah. So once we've established our LUP, we've established our OP, and then it was sort of like getting up a rotation tasking between the 4 of us as to who's going to stag on into the OP, which was sort of divided up between myself, Mike, and Ash. Obviously, Mark being the TL, couldn't really have him out at the back end of Beyond, keeping eyes on. He needed to be back in the LUP, relaying to Zero and coordinating with our radio op in the LUP, and sort of just overseeing as a TL would do. So it was sort of tasked between Mike, Ash. No, Mike. Is it Ash? Was his name Ash?
I'm not sure it was Ash, but I'll be honest with you, I can't remember.
Ash. I'm sure it began with A. Andy. I can't remember. Anyhow, this cool guy, awesome guy. The 3 of us sort of like rotated hour or 2 in and then coming back out, which was cool. That's Mike there, yeah. So he's getting feedback from me in the OP, comings and goings of the target that we're watching. Numbers, weapons, meetings, anything that's going on, vehicles in the area, timings, this, that, and the other. And then from there, that's getting we're taking photographs of a page every now and again. And obviously relaying any critical intel straight back to Zero over comms. I think we did have a comms window every now and again to call in anything. just as a general catch up with Zero. Yeah, all good's here. You know, feeling on the ground, and now everyone's sort of like, is everyone good? Is everyone freezing cold yet? And this, that, and the other. So that was cool. Comms were good. Comms were really good. No issues with comms throughout the whole weekend. So that was cool. And then it was just, yeah, I mean, from there, because we were static and it was a winter event and it was cold, and being at Tuddenham, where you've got no real cover from wind because it's all flat. It used to be an airfield. Of course, it's going to be flat. You've got pig pens for as far as the eye can see on the very outer perimeter of the place. You've got a bit of woodland either side of a vast open sort of like a marshy sort of highlandy sort of looking green space, isn't it? Which is where we were, where we had all of the odd occasional gorse bush and this, that, and the other. So there was a bit of cover there, but not a massive amount. So the wind chill did come through. So you have to take that into account. It's their temperature, the wind chill. I
mean, it's a gorse bush as well, so it's not.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not like it's thick leafed. Wind will pass through it quite easily. You know, I mean, there's not a lot of vegetation there at all.
And you're static as well. That's the other thing.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, you're not moving, so you're not getting that cold and bold effect. You are just cold.
The boldness was like initial Friday night infill, which slowly was replaced by just cold, which is just, and it's just one of those tests. So that's what I really loved about the event. And I think Mike, at the end of it, you sort of was on my way of thinking as well, of like how it really tested yourself. And I know it sounds a bit daft because it's an airsoft event, but it genuinely really did test your staying power, if you like. And how you are with your own kit, how you are with your own comfort levels as well. Where we've spoken in the past about sleeping bags and that, and the comfort rating. Oh, well, this is rated to fucking -30, and you can sleep here naked for days underwater. It's like, well, yeah, you might be able to, but I still might feel cold in that and that's why I find comfort ratings.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, there wasn't the scope to have that either, because you know, and all the stuff that was there was getting absolutely riddled with holes from the thorns and, you know, all the various sharp, pointy objects that were sort of hanging about. So,
well, this is it, and it's how far you could go. I mean, obviously, because we had to be at the ready to go. If we got bumped, it wasn't a case of just sitting there with pouches of kit like open. Oh, let's just pack all this away and put those in there and zipping. We had to. If once you'd eaten, it was packed, and rightly so. That's what you're supposed to do. Like you're having a meal. As soon as it's eaten, as soon as it's cooked, you know, whilst it's cooling down a little bit, pack your brew kit away, pack your cooker away, get it back in the burger, and it's one less bit of faff you've got to worry about. Then you can just sit there with your food, chuck it in your gash bag afterwards, the empty packet, and again put it away. And that's how we had to be. The only thing we had out for the entire, I mean, because we were lucky, we never got bumped in our LUP. So sleep mats were out, bivvy bags and DOS bags were out, and that was pretty much the only kit we had out of the Bergens. As a constant, you know, everything else was used, put away. Oh my God, it's red t-shirt guy. Yeah, boy. Planting my booby traps under mushrooms at Apocalypse. The last red tide. Good fun. So yeah, there was that to consider. Staying on top of your admin, poking up with the cold, the fatigue. The only movement was really traversing from the LUP to the OP, which is 100 meters, Mike, 85 meters tops. Yeah. And then obviously laying in the OP with no other guys with you, so you're not getting that body heat or camaraderie. You're on your own. You've got comms. You're trying to stay focused, looking for your sights on your rifle or binos or whatever it might be. And then remembering to feed back. I mean, it happened to me a couple of times where, not major things, but I would have forgotten to report something in, like someone's just stopped here and spoken to them, blah blah blah, and moved on. Very short, but then you'll be there, like concentrating and not thinking, oh shit, I need to call that in. So you'd be like a couple of minutes late with just through being fucking tired.
Dub.
Yeah. What's the time? Oh, what? And it very much so. So, but going back to the movement side of it, the only time you'd be moving is when you were switching out with whoever was in the LUP. But then you'd be waiting for them to get to you, and that was, for me, was the worst time. When Mike would be on the comms saying, "Right, Lance, I'm coming out to relieve you now," and do his turn on stag in the OP. That could be 5 minutes after we've finished radio comms with each other, but it was the longest 5 minutes of just hearing that tap on your ankles, so saying like, "Yeah, you can come out," and then just sort of jimmying back out of the tyres, and then attempting to walk or stalk back to the LUP without looking like someone who's on crank, staggering down the streets of LA, just. Yeah, it was one point I was so cold. I was actually walking like the dude in RoboCop who gets smashed into that chemical tank in the industrial estate, who just comes out going, "Help me!" Yeah, I very much felt like that. Most joints had frozen by then. Yeah, and hard lesson I learned was putting 3 pairs of socks on. That was a bad call because my feet fucking froze, which sounds weird. You'd think the more the merrier. No. Because I had 3 layers of socks on. I could barely move my toes. And being able to make fists with your toes when you're laying still is key. And being able to twist your ankles when you're laying on your front slowly, but keeping that movement there was absolutely critical when it's cold to keeping your feet warm. And where I had so many layers on, there was no movement inside my boot. So if that's my toe cap, I could not even do that, and they just stayed there. And God, by Christ, it was cold. Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it from a long time ago in terms of the cuddling that genuinely happened, because it was the only way to stay warm. It was so freaking cold in that thing. I mean, talking of like bringing it back to the whole, things to consider taking as kit wise. So shelter, you are going to struggle to adequately cover yourself. It's not going to be a tent sort of type setup. You're going to be looking.
It's not a tent event at all.
A basher. Sort of maybe even more of a heavy grade tarp, depending on where you're planning to set up. So, for example, when you're in a gorse bush, a basher itself is not going to be the most practical because it would have just got shredded to shit.
Absolutely.
You'll notice in the photo there, we were actually laying on a tarp that we brought along, which was particularly handy. So that kind of just gave you that extra layer of off the ground, away from what are you smoking at?
It just seeing pictures, it just makes me smile. Yeah. I just hark back and remember.
I mean, you can see the thorns. There was thorns everywhere. It was horrible.
It was just genuinely, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Although like from all the coldness and this, that, and the other, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was right up my street, and I said that to James and Kev afterwards. I just said that is Milsim for me. That is what I want to be doing. Pucker.
Yeah,
all good.
So things I'd recommend from a shelter perspective are definitely bring some sort of like ground sheet that you can roll out.
Yeah,
it's just going to give you, today's a prime example of how wet it can be. Just gives you a potential dry layer off the ground, especially for setting up an LUP. You're going to be static for a long time. You definitely don't want to be laying in wet ground too long, because no matter how long you're there, it is slowly going to seep through. Potentially a basher or something over the top. I mean, it depends on the weather conditions, everything like that. You've got to bear in mind there's more noise with a basher. How you're going to rig it up depends on how your LUP is all set up. I know one of the teams at Mac Alpha kind of rigged up a basher setup, and they were basically sort of laying in there off a fence line. So they had quite a good view, but they had the space to allow them to do that.
Yep.
If you're in a much more constrained position, then you're not going to potentially have that. But it is very event dependent. But I think we've always said, always take a basher. Always take a basher.
It should always be in your Bergen, regardless. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I've got my sleeve up because it's sore.
That's
right. They're far more versatile. It's not a tent setup environment for a Machiavellian event. Tents aren't quick to put away. They're a faff. They've got poles. You have a basher. Essentially, you could lay on the floor and sling it over you, and it will offer some element of windshield and waterproof or water repellency for your setup. So the basher all day long. Basher or a tarp. I'd steer more to a basher, because a tarp I think can crinkle and be noisier than a basher. I think a basher is more silky, smooth, if you like. So I'll definitely turn towards a basher or poncho type setup, as opposed to like a heavy duty tarpaulin that you can get. A sacrificial sleep mat would be good. One that you don't mind getting shitted up, like an old British Army issue roll mat. Just trim it down a bit, just so like the top half of you, trim it down so it's like from your neck to your knees. Legs can take care of themselves, but just so you've got that level of insulation on the floor. I think it was that event where I only just finished my homemade Mylar sleep pad, and I think that came into its own there, which it was really good. It was so warm, genuinely really warm. I think that was the first time I tried it.
You can get roll mats and things like that, like the foam ones, for like a tenner. I think Prepper's Shop normally have some in stock. They don't have any at the moment, but they've got them listed on there for a tenner if when they come back in. So you can usually get them all over the place. But the next thing, and I can't recommend this enough, is firstly get a sleeping bag that potentially can cope with being wet. you do not want to be going out with a traditional down sleeping bag, for example, like that, because we didn't have any overcover on us at all. We were literally just laying out under the stars in the bush. So from a weather perspective, we were incredibly lucky that we didn't have any kind of downpours or anything like that, because that would have made that whole situation more challenging to deal with. Not that we couldn't have dealt with it, but it would have made it a lot more challenging.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you've got a wet sleeping bag and that sleeping bag's going to stay wet, and things like down, and I say traditional down because down, you can get sort of the more waterproofing technologies nowadays coming in with down products. Mm-hmm. But if you've got something that is a proper insulation that's going to stay warm once it's wet, you can't argue with that. Basically, it's gonna keep you warm. And the other thing as well is a whoopee, because jungle blanket, anything like that, it's an extra layer. You can throw it on around you. You can sit up. So if you're sitting up in a static position, you've got another blanket you can throw around you. You've still got access to everything on your plate carrier or your webbing setup or however you're running.
Looks like you're marking on it. You can just sling it across the two of you. You know what I mean? You can switch the sides around, both get underneath it. You're both close together. Get that warmth circulating. Perfect, yeah, perfect. Very versatile bits of kit. Dual purpose bits of kit for events like this are crucial. Like I say, hark back to tents. A tent, you can only use it as a tent. Can't be used as anything else. It's, once it's broken, it's fucked. That's it. Game over. A basher, you can use it as a stretcher. You can use it as a sleeping bag cover, a bivvy bag, a shelter. Varying types of shelter setup you can do with it. Really, really versatile. Essentially, a big 2.5 meter square of waterproof sheeting. Great. That's exactly that for a Mac event. That's exactly what you want. Items of kit that are like that. Not very, very specific bits of kit that can only do one thing. You need to sort of like open your mind a bit more and be a bit broader with your choice and make wise choices. Again, doing the buddy system. Did we even? I think what did we use? One jet boil between us. People just chucked a can of gas out now and again. I think we had one jet boil between the four of us, because not everyone. You had somebody on stag in the OP. You had someone on stag in the LUP. You had someone on comms. You had the team leader. So everybody was busy. Only one person would be brewing up at one time. So there was no need for everyone to have a jet boil. Everyone to have a jet boil on the go. Not only would it have been quite dangerous in the location that we were at for 4 jet boils to go in. Not only that, really fucking noisy.
I think a lot of us. I think we only really had the jet boil going sort of during the day when there were vehicles and things moving around. Like, it was quite quiet the rest of the time. I think we generally tended to use the boil in the bag, not the boil in the bag, the self-heating ration packs.
And I brought my huge metal Stanley flask. So if we were going to use the jet boil, it's like, right, we're going to brew up a flask full of boiling hot water so that it brews through the night. We haven't got to fire up a jet boil through the night, through the early hours when it's really quiet. You don't want to be... Yeah, I'm just making a coffee. Anybody else want one? Oh, op 4. Anyone want a brew? Anyone? All good.
I'll tell you, we were laying close enough to op 4 that when I think it got a bit cold in the early evening, and you could hear them go, should we have a fire? Yeah, let's have a fire. So they got a burn bin going, and it was just like, oh, I'm so cold. I'm laying in this bush, and I could just hear, and I think someone over the radio just went, that sounds warm.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember just seeing them first, the yellowy orange flames just licking the top of the oil barrel. I was like, oh, I bet that's lovely over there with the warm enemy.
Yeah.
With buildings and beds and warmth and warmth.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was all good. So so back to the kit. So a sensible sleeping bag, which is rated for your comfort, not rated because you've read the ratings really good. One that's rated for your comfort. See, for me personally, I use a season 3 sleeping bag, which is my Base Camp Extreme snug pack. But along with that, I take a snug pack jungle sleeping bag as well, so I can actually put that inside my main DOS bag and sort of double layer it. Along with my Mylar sleep pad inside a bivvy bag, I am toasty, and I've been down to -6. What was the Ultimate War Game site near Brands?
Oh, that was minus.
I want to say 5. Between 5 and 7.
Around
like that.
I mean,
yeah, it was frosty. It was crisp and frosty. Yeah. And I was pants, t-shirt, socks, and that's it inside the DOS bag. Not in a tent, just under a basher. typical A-frame, roll mat out, all that jazz. Yeah, and I knew that I'd be comfortable in that set. Not that I actually slept in that setup for the weekend, because it wasn't possible. It was a case of me. I doubled up my Mylar mat. I put that underneath me. I leant back against the hide wall where we had I've got a homemade Hessian sniper screen which we put up inside just to sort of mitigate any movements from shadows through the bushes. So we had that up. I don't think we put the Mylar sheet up, did we?
No, I was going to mention though about we'll come back to that, because it's an interesting kind of ancillary to think about.
But the way I slept, because I was sort of up and down, because I'm a night shift worker, I rarely sleep for a great deal. I'm usually up a lot later than everyone else on most events, and I'm usually waking up beforehand or whatnot, or getting shouted at because my alarm's gone off an hour before everyone else wanted to get up and stuff like that. But who cares? So what I did is I just folded my Mylar sleep pad in half, had it halfway up my back and then under my arse, and I literally just pulled the sleeping bag over me, so the zip part of the sleeping bag was just to the sides. So I just literally had it as a duvet and just laid underneath that with my bivvy bag over me as well. And that's how I slept. I didn't essentially sleep in a standard configuration for a sleeping bag. It was just more like a blanket over me, and just sort of snuggled in with my soft. Took my smock off, put my softy on with a fleece underneath it, and I was warm. It was good. The Highlander hand warmer set was worth its weight in gold. And they're essentially, it looks like a very old spectacles case. It's like a green velvety outer, and you open it up. It's got it's almost like a wood burning stove rope liner on the inside, and you get like a charcoal stick, and you can either light it from one end or light both ends, and you'll get a hotter burn, which runs out quicker, or light it from one end. So I had two of them on the go. I mean, Mark tried it, and he was just like, "Good God, this is incredible!" And he was just laying there with it on his face. Like, not directly, of course, but like with the case closed, and it just chuck out some heat. They're really impressive, really good bits of kit, and they don't give off too much of a smell or anything like a burning smell to give up your position.
That's the thing. When you first brought it out, I thought there was some sort of weird incense thing. I was like, it's gonna get ropey.
Here we go. It's bringing out the weird stuff. But yeah, no, it's little bits and bobs, like just them little comfort items, which are genuine comfort items. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to bring my little poo chair to sit on, so I'm snug as a bug. If it's going to get cold, think of things that you can use like that to, hand warmers, toe warmers, the Highlander charcoal burners, things like that. Zippo hand warmers, which was in the chat there. They're worth their weight in gold, and they really will make a really miserable day a lot better when you think, oh my God, I've got that. Get that out. And it's like, ooh. Magic.
And you've got to consider the kind of the weight, space, and usefulness ratio really as well, because ultimately, having a chair is great. Being able to get off the ground is really good. At an event where you're trying to be super sneaky, super stealthy, are you going to want to be sitting above ground? Or you want to be kind of like getting a little bit lower, kind of just staying out of sight and the like. So you need to consider your insulation off the ground. Inflated air mats, great until they pop.
Never had one.
No,
for that very reason. Again, once it bursts, it's buggered. A foam-filled, self-inflating one, I would, because if that rips, you've still got the foam inner, which we've said that loads of times now. It still serves its purpose, but just one that's solely reliant on air is a complete waste of fucking money in my eyes. Unless you're doing like civvy camping and there's very minimal chance of it bursting, and if it does pop or get a little hole in it, you could repair it. Then whatever. But one that's just solely reliant on air to keep you comfortable and warm as well. That's never going to keep you warm because it's just full of fucking cold air. It's just going to freeze and be horrid. So foam filled or like a Mylar one is the way to go. Thermarest, stuff like that. Look at that. For definite.
So one I think loadout wise is going to be very predicated on what the weather's going to be for your event. So, for example, if you're going to be going to an event the week up to the event, it's starting to snow or it's going to look like it's going to snow, then you obviously need to consider snow camo potentially. But you're definitely going to be looking at, warm layers, gloves, various bits of kit from that perspective. If you're looking like it's going to be monsoon season, then rain gear is definitely the way to go. But what I want to kind of cover is the more niche items. So one, going back to the Hessian screen that we deployed at Mac Alpha, drones are obviously more and more prevalent in sort of today's society as a whole. I think they're a lot more used in airsoft events than they were maybe sort of five years ago.
100%, yeah.
Now, it does depend on the event itself. So, for example, Longmoor, I don't believe you can fly drones over Longmoor. I think the Army get a little bit touchy about that.
Yeah, I don't know what the crack is with. I don't think I've seen drone footage from Longmoor, so I'm going to say no, unless it's been pre-organised and there's been a set time window when they've been able to do it. But I don't remember seeing drone footage at Longmoor.
No. So it does depend on the event, but you do need to consider things like thermal signatures. So if you're trying to create an LUP, which, for all intents and purposes, unless the game goes, oh, yeah, well, we know they're over there, but we're going to ignore them because they're here to observe stuff, fine. But if you are genuinely trying to set up an LUP in an area where you don't want to be observed, you need to consider your multispectral camouflage, which I would defer you to last week's episode where we talked about that. But your shroud that you created worked really well from a general cover perspective, and it also gave a nice barrier against the gorse bush as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Really simple make.
So things like that, things like Hessian screens, you obviously have the chicken wire supporting that as well. So it kind of, not completely freestanding, but it had more structure to it.
From the few guys I've spoken to who currently serving, former serving, how they've made their bits and bobs like that. So it's essentially the small chicken wire with the sort of horizontal lines going through it to add a bit more rigidity, and I made that into like ever so slightly bigger than a basher sort of square. If you laid a basher out, chicken wire, two layers of chicken wire, obviously wired together, zip tied together to create like an apex. If you stood it up, it'd be an apex. And then again, long rolls of Hessian, rolled that out, cut it down, and laid it. I think I used 3 rolls, so I put one each side and then one across the middle to bridge it. Again, zip tied that to the chicken wire. Handily enough, my truck has always had an oil leak, so I laid it underneath the truck for a couple of weeks, got some oil on there, got it a bit wet, sprayed it with whatever old rattle cans I had in the garage, just darkened it down, took it over the woods and buried it for a couple of weeks, covered it in shit and mud over there, and then set it up. And the good thing about it is that you can mould it to whatever shape you sort of like because of the chicken wire inside it, so it's not just like a flat Hessian sheet. It folds into sort of like a relative sort of Bergen base sort of size square you can fold it into. A couple of bungees to hold it in place on your Bergen or however you're going to deploy it. I know it goes against me having something outside of my bag, but I really would be pushing my luck trying to get that in the Bergen as well. Not that I want to either, because it is mini.
But it's an extra bit of kit, isn't it? I mean, you've got your main kit in the Bergen, and then like mortar gunners don't go around carrying the mortars all in their kit because they can't.
That. Like it's the first thing you're going to chuck off the bag. It's your hide. It's going to be your main sort of like the crux of your OP or your hide or whatever it's going to be. And it was really good. It really worked, like Mike said. It really worked well. I was able to stand it up on its side and sort of mould the edges to make it sort of like form like a semicircle around us, like fronting the enemy. So if we were moving in the bushes, although we were set back in the bush, it added that layer of screen to sort of prevent movement being seen, which was really good. And obviously from the inside, because it's chicken wire on the inside, you could clip up a mylar sheet to sort of shield your heat signature if need be, or pull it back over yourselves. So it is a versatile bit of kit. Again, it's just like a basher. There's no correct way of setting it up. You just mold it to what you need it to do. If you're laying out in undulating land, you can mold it, chuck leaves over the top of it, and essentially get into like a leaf igloo. That's what you could make out of it. It's a cool bit of kit. I must get some more pictures of it, and I don't use it enough. Well, I don't go to enough events at the moment, so which is going to change. I need to change that.
But I mean, any sort of screening like that is particularly useful in a winter event. You've got to bear in mind there's an awful lot less vegetation floating about. So if you're going to be setting up a position, you are going to want to move. You can't lay in a static position for an awful long time because you are just going to get cold. You're going to freeze up. You're going to get stiff. The body is designed to move to get blood flow moving.
That's it,
so
exactly.
Things like even a cheap cam net or anything like that, you can kind of string that up in certain places. But you do just have to be careful that you don't create this kind of, very obscure black shape or kind of void in a bush. So the rest of the bush is completely bare, and all of a sudden there's this core that's just turned up in there. So you need to obviously be careful with how you're utilizing some of these bits of kit.
Yeah. And also cutting out your LUP as well, is like what Mike said then about seeing that obscure shape through the bush. And if you are cutting into somewhere, making sure that you're trying to put that back as naturally as possible. You know, you're not just going to do perfectly straight lines of like sprat trees or scrub or anything like that, or shrubs in a perfect, you know, just angle them and that. Make sure they're not putting like roots up in the air, because that just looks random. Roots grow down, they don't grow out the tree. They're not roots. So you remember to do that, you know, them little bits and bobs, and they're all little telltale giveaway signs, you know, and then having that bush plug, if you like, to be able to pull back in once you're all in there, being able to pull something in across. So if it's all brambles, cutting the brambles from one side first, and then basically pulling that veil out of the way once you're in, being able to pull it back across and sort of hide the off cut bits and that. You know, it's key to if you're doing an event like that. Yeah, 100%.
The other one I wanted to mention was gloves. So I would personally recommend 3 different gloves, and that's pairs of gloves, not 3 individual gloves, because that would be stupid. So the first for me is fingerless gloves. Personally, I like using fingerless gloves. I find the dexterity to be really handy, especially if you're doing lots of writing or anything like that. If you need to convey information via, depending on the systems that you're using, things like WhatsApp with touchscreen phones. If you're doing any kind of intricate little details or anything like that, having thick gloves on are not particularly helpful. So to me, I always run a pair of fingerless gloves. Now, for the winter, that's not ideal, because fingerless gloves, firstly, your fingers are exposed, so they're going to get cold. They're going to hit things. You're going to get scratches and stuff. You're going to fuck your fingers up. And then also you run the risk of your fingers drying out. So I suffer with some ungodly skin thing where if I have my fingers exposed in the winter for an awful long time without using sort of moisturizer or anything like that, then the skin just cracks up and I start bleeding, and it's just a nightmare. Awful. So yeah, it's not nice. So obviously bear in mind that you might want to have extra pairs of gloves for different scenarios. Now, if you're going to be carving bushes open to create hides or anything like that, highly recommend a decent set of gloves. You can, for I think the price of about a £5 from Screwfix, get like, they are red, but you can rattle can them down. A pair of leather gauntlets. I think they're designed for welders.
Right. Yeah.
But these things are the most robust gloves I've had in a long time. I use them for gardening. You know, if you're ever doing any barbecue stuff like that, you want to move something that's hot. You know, they're not necessarily designed for that, but they work well from that perspective. And I really wish that I'd taken them with me, because you know, we're moving all those thorns and things about, having a nice, decent pair of gloves would have made that a heck of a lot easier.
It wasn't until we were like 40 minutes in, and I've looked around, and you're like,
yeah.
Like, fuck's sake, Mike. Because I took a pair of like the yellowy orange leather pruning gloves, like proper pruning gloves. So I took my normal full-fingered shooting gloves off, like my mechanics ones, and chucked these on, and I could sort of go a bit hell for leather then. It didn't really matter too much. And poor Mike's got fingerless gloves on, and he's taking the debris that I'm cutting and moving it and pushing it. And I'm like, fuck, man. So I gave him my shooter's gloves with mechanics full-fingered ones, just so he had something covering them up at least. You know, but I totally get. I mean, I'm 3 pairs of gloves in the winter. I'm a warm set, like woolly, wintry sort of type glove, which has got the little finger bit that you can access your phone if you need to, and then clip it back over. I've got my normal mechanic shooting gloves, and I take them pruning gloves as well. But yeah, that's essential. And obviously, if a pair gets sopping wet, just being able to change them out and put some dry gloves on. Same with your socks. You know, a few pairs of socks, and the sealskin socks as well. 100%. Make sure you got them.
Yeah, I'll dig out the link, or I'll show you the leather gauntlet gloves I recommend. They're £4. I'll get the link up in a second. But the third pair of glove I wanted to talk about, so I really rate these. They are the British Army military overgloves.
Yes.
So they are effectively like a big mitten that kind of goes over everything, and it is something that you can literally throw on whatever pair of gloves you've got on. You can just throw it on over the top, and it gives you a leather pad on the inside. It does obviously turn your hands into Lego hands. You know, you're basically just running around with crab claws at that point.
Yeah.
But you can still fold one of the fingers open if you want to on the mittens. I think you can on the over mittens. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm thinking of the other gloves. But the over mittens are really good. You can get them quite cheap. They come in DPM and multicam. So if you're looking for something to sort of suit a certain style, but they are just a pair of gloves, and now I keep them on me all the time in winter events. So, you know, when you do get cold, your hands getting a bit cold, just chuck them on, because they're the sort of thing you can just rip off again if you need to, and then you're back in the fight straight away.
Yeah, 100%. It's like me with my softy jacket. That comes to every event with me, regardless, because it either doubles up as my pillow or it's a jacket. So it's that dual purpose thing again. You know, it's the whole like the I think the British Army issue one's called a head comforter. they call it. So it's basically like a snood sort of type thing, but you can also fold it a certain way into like the old commando hat. That's worth its weight in gold because you can pull it right down over your neck. It's open both ends. It's like a long tube of material, but you can manipulate it into a hat, put it down so it's more of a bally, things like that. You know, it's a great bit of kit. You know, really good.
So, in no way sponsored by Screwfix, but for £4, these sight leather MIG welders gauntlets in red. They don't come in any other colour. It's a little annoying, but it's like rattle can them down. They you know, the bold red dies off quite quickly. So I highly recommend that. And also you get the oh, here we go. Drew says my finger joint skin used to split when very cold. Used Neutrogena like magic, all healed up. I find working hands is good as well. So I always have like a little pot of working hands now. And again, if you're out sort of in the cold for an awful long time, you can just rub a little bit of that on. It just helps kind of deal with that. So,
yeah,
there you go.
Nice.
Who'd have thought that our episode would be about hand cream and gloves?
There we go. Yeah, got to look after those hands. Got to look after them digits, boys and girls.
Yeah.
Base layers, Mike. How are you with base layers?
So base layers. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'll go with a set of old school long johns, cotton long johns. Can't beat them, really. I mean, you can go down the route of tights as well, so the thicker sort of tights and things.
Good.
If it's a proper cold event, I generally tend to go more long johns than tights.
Yeah.
But I have worn sort of tights to some of the events, just for the fact that they do add an extra layer. They just keep the heat in a little bit more. But I don't generally tend to wear them. I tend to either just go for the long johns, or no under base layer on trousers anyway. And then with the top, I sometimes go with a thermal t-shirt. So they're kind of like the under style vest, Under Armour sort of style vest or anything like that. I generally opt not to because it's a layer that you can't take off easily.
No, that's
so
right, yeah.
With the trousers and everything like that, no, not fishnet tights.
He has been
with the trousers,
but not for events.
With the trousers, it's I don't really struggle with the heat on my legs too much. It tends to be my core, everything that gets a lot hotter.
See, I'm the opposite. It's my leg, it's the top, it's my thighs that feel the cold. So winter event, I'll have long johns on all the time, and it's my top half that stays hot, but it's my thighs that feel the cold more. So that's why I go with the Under Armour cycling short pants and the long johns as well, and that's good. That's good for me. That's good comfort. I know my comfort.
Sorry, Phil from Australia. He said, "Winter? What the fuck is that?"
You flaming mongrel. Phil spends his winter in a G-string.
Yeah, he's wearing the fishnets.
Yeah, that's the only tights he'll be wearing in Oz. Keeps enough heat in, that does.
I am just when James mentioned fishnets, the first thing that came to mind is if we ever do any kind of sneaky like infiltrating the enemy
Civilian
type thing, we'll rock up as prostitutes.
Yes, the ladies of the night.
Oh,
classic.
Tonight's show, just so everyone's aware, is going to be a little cut short. Unfortunately, I need to finish packing because I'm moving house on Friday, and Lance has to go to work. So we are going to be finishing at bang on 9, basically.
Yeah. But this is going to be a part 2. We'll do. I think we should continue this next week because we not even. Yeah. We need to get to the inner sanctum of warmth.
Yeah. It's annoying. I really wanted to bring out lots of bits of kit because there's lots of little exciting things that I've bought over the years. Everything is in my lockup. Everything now.
Well, I should dig out some bits for next week to show and tell.
Please do.
Some creature comforts for the cold conditions because it's definitely, and it's a big. It's like we've always said when you first start trying MilSims, and we always say try and do one that's in the spring or the summer, so you haven't got to have these sorts of bits of kit that we're going to be talking about. And showing sort of like next week, you can afford to take part in a MilSim on a cheaper budget in a summer event as opposed to a winter event. So, but yeah, so we'll show these bits and bobs, which are overly expensive, but they are, in my eyes, sort of crucial bits of kit to get you through a cold weather event. A 5 degrees below sort of event.
It's that little bit of comfort. That's all you need. Yeah. Most people can be pushed into uncomfortable situations and sort of still cope. But the thing is that you don't want to be miserable. You're paying to be there, and there's certain little bits of things that you can take with you that are just going to give you that little creature comfort. Absolutely. Same as having a little bag of sweets. Your little snacks that everyone carries around, your little pick-me-ups. Yeah,
that's it. Exactly that.
That's all it is. It's little things like that just and Mark, who I spent an awful lot of time spooning with at Mac Alpha.
Yeah, I'd like to say an uncomfortable amount of time.
Yeah, well, it was good. It was lovely. Having the whoopee, I was like, oh, because he said, a bit chilly. I was like, oh, here. And I chucked the whoopee over the both of us, and he was like, this is amazing. I was like, oh, yeah, it's great, isn't
it? Yeah. Mike's like, take your clothes off. It's even better.
Yeah.
It's so hot. It's so hot. Feel my undercarriage. Feel how warm it is.
I'm not wearing my long johns.
Just pop your fingers in there for a little while. They'll be toasty.
If you want to get in touch with the show, you can email us nofochat@hotmail.com. Our Instagram is @November_Foxtrot_NoFo, and the website is novemberfoxtrot.co.uk. You can also get in touch with us on our own individual Instagrams of @9voltairsoft, @the_punished_1_ and @callsign_quartermaster.
It is.
I don't think
He's
there's an
currently in America.
He is
Eating his
around.
own body weight in hot dogs and all things American.
Only slightly jealous.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly run through some comments because there were some comments coming in. Going back to who we went to Mac Alpha with, Lance Dale says, well, it's Ash now. So there you go.
Now, I've decided his name, if it's not that, it is that. But yeah, lovely chap regardless. I think he's a member of the Alpha group Milsim. I've got him on Instagram. I will look it up and say hi.
Danny says, are you doing the next one?
I hope so. Very, very much. Yeah, I really do want to do Mac Delta at Longmore November 12th and 13th, is it? 23rd?
Something like that, yeah. I really want to.
It's got 3 in the date anyhow, I think.
Yeah,
James
I just need to get my stuff in order, basically. I don't know how much time I'm going to have. So, but James actually says drone update at Longmore due soon, just in time for Mac Delta.
Ah,
there you go.
Interesting. There we go.
Fat Pigeon says, sorry I'm late, I'm on honeymoon. Congratulations.
Yeah, boy.
I assume it's your honeymoon and not someone else's that you're crashing.
Sorry, double booked.
Yeah.
Awkward.
The most religiously, I'm the best man and I'm going to be here every step of the way.
Whatever you need. Literally, whatever you need.
Terry, hi Terry. Personal admin is so important in an OP. Completely agree.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And because, like you say, you're governed by space. You need to stay on top of it. You need to keep it squared away. And obviously,
and you're going to piss your teammates off if your shit's everywhere as well.
If your shit is everywhere. Yeah. And if you've got to bug out quick, it all needs to be squared away quick. Yeah. It should be done already. So there's minimum.
Ryan says, sound like good overall bushcraft and purpose gloves. Definitely.
Yep, definitely.
Definitely. Phil says, lightweight MTB gloves are the ticket. Good protection, but fantastic dexterity.
There we go. What would you know, Phil? You're in Australia.
Yeah, but everything over there is trying to kill you. The bushes, the animals, the insects.
Jesus Christ.
Ryan says, I've heard the tactical kilt is warm, even coming MTP.
Ooh, tactical kilt. I don't know about wearing a kilt at Tuddenham on that event.
Yeah, it'd be a bit cold.
Imagine laying in the OP in the tyre tunnel and the old wind changes direction, just blows up the leg. Oh my God. Literally go from a relaxed 50p to...
Yeah. And then Drew says, Lance, do you have a pickup rigged out for sleeping? Next week, could you take us through it? Next week, if you have.
Do I have a pickup?
It's not your pickup, but your warrior is...
Oh, my truck. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
But I was trying to get what pickup was. Yeah, what is this pickup? Like a pickup line? What is this? Yes, I can certainly put some pictures up, mate, and briefly go over it next week. I've got a few picker chores. That we can sort of plough through quickly next week for the start of the show. Yeah, why not? Absolutely. More than happy to show off the old truck.
Pigeon, yes, it is mine. Congratulations.
Good lad. What are you doing talking to us?
Why are you watching us instead of...
I hope something's going on right now.
Yeah.
How good would that be?
We'll have the soundboard tonight. I can't play the sexy music. Anyway, Lance, do you want to have a closing word? I was going to say goodbye, but do you want to have the closing words?
I want to say I want Mr. and Mrs. Fat Pigeon to come in nice and close now. Just I got snuggle on. There you go. Enjoy your honeymoon. Let that sound emanate throughout the bedroom.
You're going to be thinking about us now. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. So there we go.
And rightly so.
Right.
There's nothing gets me in the mood more than thinking about you.
Yeah, well, I've sent you that picture now, so you've got that
exactly.
One.
Yeah. As soon as I see it, I'm like, right, Louise, game on.
I'll see you next week. Have a good week, and stay NoFo and all that lovely jazz. Next week will be a bit longer. We'll be a bit longer next week. Maybe. Say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye, guys.
Well, it's not even that. It's say goodbye, Lance.
No. Guy. Say Guy.
Say goodbye, Guy.
Goodbye, Guy.
It's weird.
Would have been Borat then as well. Goodbye, Guy.
See you later.